Hello, and welcome to this week's retrospective. So, this week has been just a big validation of all that prep work that I've been doing over 15 weeks. In one day, managed to create 4 videos, one article, zero to production ready. And while the content is mine and always will be, all the post production is AI workflows. And that's where the huge time saving was. In the past, that would have taken probably in the aggregate in terms of getting it all done and having the time. I reckon if you're pushing it, that would have taken a week. My view is this isn't just speed for speed's sake. It's how you win back time to focus on the things that really make the difference is, finding those stories that'll help people. That's my view anyway. The other thing that I did was looking at, and I mentioned it in the last week's retrospective, the sort of AI features we're putting on the publishing side, digitizing events like further reading, building another two, because I think they'll help accessibility and also save readers' time. So one of them is taking the workflow that I use for myself, where when I have a big long article or a big piece of research, I literally go into my GPT and say, hey, turn this into voice, and it goes and does it. I'm going to use that same microservice that's already built with a few tweaks and enable the ability for people to download or listen to all the articles on digitizing events. Now, the best solution I found, as in commercial software as a service solution, I'd probably be looking at $138 per annum to enable that, and then depending on the scale and so on. And by my calculations, I reckon it'll cost me £20 plus the iterations on a GPT to get those microservices reconfigured for this use case. So that is again significant, and it goes back to one of my motivations whereby just making small businesses aware that by looking at things differently, you can reduce OPEX by so much. The other one that I've designed, which is just a crazy idea, I just want to see whether it can be done, is that when you go on thumbnails, rather than just seeing the thumbnail and the summary, and that being all there is to entice you to actually look at the article in more depth, is to have an execution whereby if you hover over the thumbnail, or if you're on mobile, if you just swipe, it'll give you a executive summary of what's included in that article as like a ticker subtitle video player. I know I can build it because there's just so much cheap compute out there. I think the proof of concept will cost me about £10 in API costs. And I need to do the proof of concept at scale. So it's going to have to cover maybe 80 of the articles on digitizing events. So yeah, it's just crazy how much you can do and the cost with which you can do it when you've kind of got GPTs doing programming on tap for you. One of the things which has always been a big realization to me is that a lot of people are talking in AI, and they're talking in the sense of large, huge enterprises, but that's not really the commercial reality in nearly all of the developed world. In the UK, for example, there's a Home Office statistic is that 94.6 of UK businesses are below 1 million. And that's about 2.4 million businesses. I genuinely believe that those 2.4 million businesses have probably, in the aggregate, got the biggest AI opportunity out there if they can just be made aware of what can be done. And I think it aligns really nicely with the content that's going out and digitizing events where, to be honest, all I want to do is show what can be done and show it in a way that, someone can just lift and shift that and apply it, because I think that'll just be a really good outcome and a very different narrative from everything that's going on in terms of, GPTs can now write poems and all that stuff. I'm not saying it's not nonsense. It probably concerns some people, but this is a real impact. And the other thing that is just a personal reflection, because this is a retrospective. So thank you for watching this, but I hope to share stuff that's useful. This whole thing around prompt engineering and context engineering and activating AI, I'm not trying to brag, but I'm not finding it that hard. I find it pretty easy. And I think, applying the word engineering to everything is just creates an obfuscation, in my view, that is not helpful. I explained it to a friend and I said, context engineering is just like being able to talk to a 5-year-old. And you need to break the stuff down into very simplistic, concise instructions that can be understood. So I think if you're a parent, you've got a head start in context engineering because you've probably been doing it without knowing it. Anyway, so what broke? Nothing much this week. It was all about seeing, how well the flow works in terms of getting content and then AI doing the post-production. And it's there or thereabouts. It'll always be improved on, but that's not worth mentioning in these things. What has happened is I have purposely resisted not putting any of this into my LinkedIn network, which has about 5,000 connections gathered through my professional career. And that is now going to start because I've found some real meaning in this activity. And it does come back to showing, look, if you are an independent business, there is more you can do than you thought you could. And it's not about getting AI to replace human creative work. I'm talking in my industry, right? It's more about offloading all the mundane stuff. And it's also about the fact that you can now create digital experiences that may in the past have just been the domain of much larger companies because of this software as a service cost barrier. Because think about how those companies work and make money. Like when I was looking for the solutions for the 2 experiments I mentioned at the top of it, all of their mechanics is about getting you to pay a chunk up front. Right? And then if you do use it because you think it's going to be easier, it's a trick. It's like having a personal direct debit set up. You tend to forget about it. And all those little tiny things that you give to SaaS providers are not only do they add up, but some of them you're paying over the odds because the model, the SaaS model, it looks at, okay, I'm going to have this many people who are going to be utilizing my product at 90, 95, close to 100%. But the vast majority, the long tail, aren't going to be. And, that is profit, pure profit. So that was an interesting realization. Next week, just looking forward, one, we need to create more content because we don't have more content. We're not sharing the lessons we're learning. The other one is I am going to start sharing the lessons more in production rather than at the end of the journey. So, for example, the experiment about being able to hover over a thumbnail and then it reading out an executive summary. I'm going to share the design document for that. And then the end. I think that'll be useful. May not be, but we'll see. You don't know until you've done it. I feel that is probably a good focus for next week. I'm not quite ready to push to the maximum quite yet. There are a few things that we still need to do because I'm still intent on seeing how far one person can push this. So thank you for watching. This may have been a long one. I hope you watched it at double speed, and I'll see you on next week's retrospective. Thanks again.